So, everybody's got a John McCain story. I've got one I can tell in public. What can I say? Codels. Have you ever been on a Codel with John? Yeah, the French Foreign Legion is like a vacation. So the rule is you can't have dinner and lunch in the same country. It's really crazy after a while. But my favorite trip of all, talking about freedom, is that we were going somewhere that nobody else would go for a reason, because everybody else is smarter than us. And so we were in one of these stands. I can't remember the name of it, and it's not associated with freedom. So he picked up the paper and said, 500 people got killed in this country yesterday. I said, okay. He says, we got to go. And I said, why? We got to stand up for freedom. I said, why don't you go? But we went. So we land, and we go to the embassy, which was a Soviet hotel with a big disco ball. And John said, hey, guys, how's it going? All the Marines are in full battle gear. They got the guns and, all the ammo, and they're taking Bush's picture down, and they're shredding everything. And he says, how's it going? So, John, I don't think it's going that well. There's a reason they didn't want us to come here. So we had this news conference with the dissidents, the ones that were not killed. And they were beaten and bloodied, and they had like one camera because this is a dictatorship, and it wasn't a friendly camera. John's railing on, this is terrible, these people freedom fighters, I stand with you, America stands with you, I've lost my freedom, I will die for freedom. Then it was my turn, and I said, well, I just want the government to know there's two sides to every story. I look forward to hearing their side later on, hoping we could get out of this place. But if there was ever a romantic view of America, John McCain possesses it. He's been in love with this country, the ideals of this country. He's a hopeless romantic when it comes to freedom, and he's taught me a lot about freedom. You really don't appreciate it till you lose it. And I think that's why he's so passionate. But freedom, somebody's got to fight for it. General Mattis, you've been fighting for it for a long damn time, and we appreciate it. So I was with John last week, and we laughed, we cried, we watched The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. You need to watch that movie. Nikki, do you know what is this? You're too young. You're doing a great job, by the way. The Palestinians said hello. You make us proud, you really do. But this movie tells you all you need to know about John McCain and all you need to know about me, because it is great plot lines. And we gave you an R-rated version, a lot of commentary. But General Mattis called to brief John about getting out of the Iran deal. And you did it so respectfully. You said, Mr. Chairman, I want to let you know the president decided to withdraw from the deal. I think it was a sound decision, but he wanted me to tell you. And I wanted you to know it before anybody else, because nobody respects you more than I do. I cannot tell you, whatever medicine he's on, nothing replaced that phone call. Thank you for calling John and keeping him relevant. As long as you can tweet, John McCain would be relevant. And so I enjoyed my time, but we're here for you tonight. I always wondered why I did not get this award. Now I know. Here's who's got it in the past. Ronald Reagan, 41 Bush, 43 Bush, Henry Kissinger, George Shultz, and the Pope. So now I know why I didn't get it. But now I know why you did. Isn't that a pretty good crowd? You fit right in there. You somewhere between Ronald Reagan and the Pope. But you're a Marine's Marine. You're a man's man. You've got a heart of gold, and you have fought and sacrificed for this country. And it started when he enlisted in the Marines at 18. Then he got to be a second lieutenant, and 40 years later he retires. He was the commander of the 1st Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment. I don't know what that means, but it sounds impressive. I'm an Air Force guy. We're sort of a lethal NGO. We're not unionized, but we're pretty close. Commander of Task Force 58 during the initial operations in Afghanistan. The commander of the 1st Marine Division. I think that's where you were at, Jimmy. As long as there's one Marine with a rifle, we'll be safe. That's what every Marine tells me, and I believe it. Commander of U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, from 2010 to 2013. You have been in battle. You understand war as well as anybody, and that's why you're a good man to have to make peace, because anybody who understands war wants peace. But the one thing I tell you about the general, don't play him. You'll regret it. The 26th Secretary of Defense confirmed 98-1. The Pope couldn't get 98 votes in this environment. There's two things I want to quote. Some people's voices matter and others don't. I can't think of a stronger voice than Senator John McCain and General Mattis at a time when voices really matter. Very few people you can quote that the Senate or the House really cares about. When General Mattis speaks as Secretary of Defense, people listen. And let me give you a quote. Let me be clear. As hard as the last 16 years of war has been on our military, no enemy in the field has done so much to harm the readiness of the U.S. military than the combined impact of the Budget Control Act sequestration and continuing resolutions. With that one statement, it allowed people like me and Senator McCain and Marco to set aside sequestration that had given us the smallest Navy since 1915, the smallest Army since 1940, and grounded half of the fighter planes in the Air Force. No enemy could do that. Only Congress could do that. And when you spoke the way you did, I took it as a poster, and Marco came down and everybody came down. You shamed us into setting aside sequestration. And Dan spoke. The Marines are alive and well in the Senate. The power of that voice to get politicians who can't agree on almost anything to set aside sequestration is why you deserve this award. That's hard power. I'm the Foreign Ops Chairman. I'm in charge of foreign aid, which is really popular back home. I am glad I got a ambassador of the United Nations that I can point to, say she will manage the money well. Nikki, you have made it really easy to support the State Department's budget. Thank you very, very much. Freedom has to be fought for. It's hard to get. It's even harder to keep. But for it to really survive, it's got to be beyond the force of arms. I think Marco described very eloquently the difference between a democracy and an autocratic. And I hope Trump wouldn't listen. Some of that stuff he'll like. You like no elections and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm actually in 2020 cycle. I like some of it myself. You can pick your own opponent, but the temptations of that are fleeting. So you describe very well the difference. But soft power keeps us safe as much as any bomb you can drop. The one thing that General Mattis, Secretary of Defense now, has taught me after 44 trips to Iraq and Afghanistan with John McCain almost every time is that in this war, you're not going to win by dropping bombs. You're not going to win by killing people. General Mattis and others have taught me that to win this war, you have to have a hopeful life to compete with a glorious death. That building a small schoolhouse in a remote region of Iraq, Afghanistan, or Syria will do more damage to radical Islam than any bomb you could drop. I learned that from the generals. I learned that from the general's general, General Mattis, IRI. To those who are in this business, you're as important to me as any brigade, squadron of airplanes, or fleet of ships. You're out there on the front lines in very difficult conditions, helping those who are willing to speak out. John McCain is the spirit of this organization. Freedom has to be fought for, and people have to die to maintain it. But to really share freedom, you share values. And this is what General Mattis said about the State Department. If you don't fund the State Department fully, then I need to buy more ammunition ultimately. So I think it's a cost-benefit ratio. The more we put into the State Department's diplomacy, hopefully the less we have to put in our military budget as we deal with the outcome of an apparent American withdrawal from the international scene. Those words I have worn out. There's an effort throughout the world to withdraw. The strong man march is on the march. Hard power you can sell to the American public because they know how vicious this enemy is, and they're willing to invest in the military to keep them safe. But what General Mattis has taught us and taught me, that safety really comes when people have the ability to speak out. They have a voice, and that soft power, according to this general, makes us just as safe, if not more safe, than hard power. The reason you get this award tonight, General Mattis, is because you understand freedom. You have fought for it, and you're wise enough to tell those of us in Congress that our values keep us free. Congratulations.